What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another post-game show, I should say, on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com, covering your St. Louis Battlehawks. And tonight, we're doing a pre-recorded post-game. This time it is not live, but Braden and Connor were at the game today. They're currently on their way home. They drove all the way from KC to St. Louis to watch the Battlehawks play like crap. So I just got to ask, how was the game day experience?
It was pretty good pregame. Like it really felt like an NFL environment pregame because you had people like tailgating. You could smell the barbecue smoke and all that. And we went to Ballpark Village beforehand, and there were tons of Battlehawks fans there, and people were selling merch. People just looked excited for the team. Like it felt like the Battlehawks belonged here. It just really felt like a good football game day environment.
Could you also smell what Anthony Becht was cooking?
Nothing.
Yeah, it was bad. And now I hear Star Wars music in the background.
We're back, Josh. All right, continue the show. Resume.
So, did you smell what Anthony Becht was cooking?
Nothing. He was cooking nothing. That was such a poorly coached game. Like I felt like I was watching Eli Drinkwitz, honestly, with all the penalties and just shitty play calling.
I'm not gonna touch that, but I just down the stretch when the Battlehawks were amidst their comeback, I thought to myself, okay, if they pull this off, cool. But even if they do, we have to have a conversation about how this team doesn't seem to give a shit until the last 2 minutes.
That's fair.
Yeah, that is fair.
Very much a fourth quarter team.
Like, the comebacks are cool. They're fun. They're fun the first couple weeks, but it's not sustainable, especially against a team like DC. You can't just pray that your offense is going to wake up in the late fourth quarter and that's how you're going to win games, because we need to see the Battlehawks play a complete game, and they just haven't done that.
They did last week, kind of.
Yeah, but
last week, sorry that I wasn't on the show, and Josh, fuck you for calling my tattoo lame.
That is.
It's a good tattoo. I like it, and it's personal.
No, it's ironic because the league is owned by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and Braden got a rock tattoo. But I guess you could call Braden the Pebble, not the Rock.
I'm the Pebble to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
I was
Braden the Pebble Dowers.
I was hoping that The Rock would be there so we could smell what he was cooking, but I'd rather him be the coach than Becht at this point.
Yeah, today felt like the culmination of Anthony Becht and bad decisions and poor execution. Like the penalties, my God, the penalties were awful today. I mean, every other play, a flag, false start, unnecessary roughness, whatever it may be. It was terrible. They just look undisciplined out there.
I will say, the game was dog shit. The game was awful. The game was not fun until the very end, until AJ threw a pick. Until the last few minutes, the game was fucking miserable. And then AJ threw that dime to, I think it was Hakeem Butler.
No, it was a running back. I think it was Mateo Duran.
Are you talking about
the touchdown pass
in the fourth quarter?
Yeah.
That was to number 20. I think it was Stephen Mitchell is his name.
22.
Yeah, 22. Stephen Mitchell.
Anyway, pause again.
Another phone call.
Continue the stream.
Okay, we're back.
So where were we? Stephen Mitchell touchdown.
Yeah. That was that point, and then getting the defensive stop. That was all fun, but the rest of the game was dog shit. But the game day experience itself, getting to see the dome, just exploring everything. They had 7 merch stations throughout the stadium.
All had massive ass lines.
Yeah, there were all huge lines. The main merch store, where I think the old Rams team store used to be, had a line that wrapped around twice. So the passion is very clearly there. There was a guy to my right who talked about how this is the first time he's been to the Dome in 10 years, when he was at a Saints-Rams game. And it just felt like the Battlehawks were the home team here. You know, like we've been.
Oh yeah,
about.
yeah. I mean, it felt like they were watching the St. Louis Rams again. That's for sure.
So, you know, Anthony Becht is a perfect fill-in for Jeff Fisher. So it's like they never left.
It really is. I mean, a washed-up former big school quarterback. You got that too. AJ McCarron.
Who are you referring to on the Rams?
Sam Bradford.
We met Excalibur, and you called him a loser, Josh.
No, I didn't. Okay, I was heated after the game, and so I called the Battlehawks fans losers.
And
all right.
You were so adamant about not doing a post game again.
Yeah, and I barely have the energy to do this one because
motherfucker, we are driving home from St. Louis. We were at the game. You think we're not tired?
It ain't my fault that you paid to watch that.
I woke up at 8 a.m. this morning and drove for 4 hours.
You drove that. That's not my fault that you drove 4 hours to watch Anthony Becht.
4 more hours.
This is not my fault that you drove 4 hours. You decided willingly to drive 4 hours and pay money to watch Anthony Becht coach football.
Josh, I'm at mile marker 233, and I got to get to mile marker 215 on I-70.
You got a long way to go.
Yeah. Just like Anthony Becht's coaching skills. They got a long way to go, too.
My biggest frustration with him today, besides the penalties, was the decision to punt when it was 4th and 3 late in the fourth quarter and 11 minutes left. Well, I guess it wasn't so late in the fourth quarter, but there was 11 minutes left. You were down by 16 because punting there, you basically have to get a stop on defense. And I felt a lot better about us getting 3 yards than getting another stop on defense against DC.
Confident in our offense?
No, but I feel like you have a better chance of scrounging together 3 yards there than you do of the defense getting another stop. And then you're putting real pressure on yourself even after you get the stop, because now you're in the same exact position again, but with less time on the clock. You're still down by 2 scores. And they scored the first touchdown in the fourth quarter, 2-point conversion, cut the lead to 8. And then they just put pressure on themselves in the last 2 minutes to get one more, and AJ McCarron throws that interception, and it's game over.
He had a very open receiver on that play, too.
Yeah, he had a check down wide open, but decided to go for the long ball.
And just barely under.
But they needed a miracle to get to that point.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the other thing, too, is even if they score a touchdown, they also have to get the 2-point conversion to even tie. So that seems like a tall task.
I said it to Connor during the game, but the Battlehawks are 2 plays away from being 1-4. Because those first 2 games are 1 play away, and we are the second worst team in the league.
Yeah, and I mean, so last week when they played Arlington in the home opener, Arlington must just be really bad because St. Louis, that was their first game this year where they didn't allow a sack. Arlington did not have a single sack. Going into that game, AJ McCarron had been sacked 12 times in the first 3 games. And then today, DC once again, I think, had 5 sacks in total. I mean, the pass protection is just horrible. And I mean horrible.
And they have so many goddamn flags on them as well. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, the penalties not help. I mean, if you want to look for positives in this game, Hakeem Butler was a beast. Besides that one drop.
The running game's going.
Darius Shepard is, like, bar none, the best kick returner in the league. It's not even close. Yeah, that's about it.
It's pretty cold.
Even the defense,
most of his kick returns have been against DC, so that might be a testament to DC's special teams. I think they need somebody like Dave Tobe to come in and fix it.
That would make it worse, in my opinion. But
that was the joke, Josh.
The defense, I understand. The defense also had
Clearly.
what I would call an off day. Usually they've carried this team, but today they just really didn't have that kind of performance in them. And the killer was really allowing that 70-yard touchdown to DC on the ground, and also the running back for DC. I forget who even was the ball carrier on that play, but he juked this. Yeah, well, he juked the safety totally out of his shoes on that play for a touchdown. It was just piss poor tackling, piss poor effort, and it really sucks because this was a must-win game. Like, DC is now 5-0. The Battlehawks are 3-2.
The only must-win game was World War II.
We're tied with Seattle now.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is you're tied with Seattle now. You're 3-2, and also DC's kind of running away with the division at this point. It would take a pretty big collapse from DC at this point to lose the division, and they've already played both games against the Battlehawks, so it's not like the Battlehawks have another chance to make up ground against them. I mean, this was the game. This was the game you had to win. This would have basically tied you with DC for the division. It's at home in front of the 35,000 people, which I don't know if you guys saw the number. I'm sure maybe they said something at the stadium. 35,000, another really good crowd. And you couldn't pull out the win against DC. And at this point, like, we've seen through 2 games that DC is just the superior team. You know, if you're to split the XFL teams up into tiers, DC is in its own tier, and the Battlehawks are probably in the tier below them.
I think the Battlehawks are a little lower than that. Like, I think Houston would whoop our ass.
Well, Houston lost to Seattle, so
yeah.
I don't know what happened because I wasn't watching that game, but Houston losing that that shows that they're not invincible like DC is.
It sucks because both of these games against DC were very winnable. Like, very, very winnable. But the gap is coaching, really. I mean, that's what it is. Coaching, discipline, execution. And, yeah, no, I agree with you, Connor. Like, you could even make an argument that the Battlehawks might be down even another tier, like 2 tiers below DC.
It kind of feels like DC is like the Battlehawks Bengals. And it's like, no matter what, we cannot beat these fuckers.
Yeah, no, it definitely feels like that.
I just thought of this. It's very telling how good of a spring league quarterback Jordan Te'amu is, that now that Chuck Long is in his offensive coordinator, he's 5-0.
Yeah.
I was surprised that there wasn't like any sort of warm welcome back for Te'amu. Like, nobody cheered for him. Granted, the stadium, like, the PA announcer didn't announce his name or anything, but I felt like St. Louis would have been like, hey, it's Te'amu. Nice to see him again.
A lot of people had his jersey, though.
Yeah, there were a lot of jerseys. I saw a LaDainian Washington jersey.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's surprising that they didn't do any sort of, like, bringing Tamu out to midfield before the game or anything. Because, like, I don't know, I feel like he was popular enough that you could do something like that.
Yeah.
Didn't they do that with Jonathan Hayes?
Well, no, but
we're
Jonathan...
in St. Peter's, Josh. We're in your hood.
Yeah, you guys got a long-ass way to go still. Jeez.
Anyway.
But no, Jonathan Hayes, he came down into the stands after the game and, like, said hello to some of the fans and stuff like that. But I don't know, I feel like when you think about the Battlehawks of 2020, like, Hayes and Tamu were, like, synonymous with that team. So, I don't know, I at least hope that most of the fans there today just kind of thought to themselves, like, oh, hey, it's Jordan Te'amu.
Yeah, a lot of the merch that we saw around us were 2020 jerseys and hats and stuff like that. And, like, the guy to my right, he was really drunk and talking a lot, but he was talking really fondly of the 2020 season and just about how happy he is that they're back. And, like, I don't know, you can definitely tell this meant everything, and then Anthony Beck's let them down. St. Charles Community College.
How are you guys not on the highway?
We're on 70.
How are you able to... You know what? Never mind. Never mind.
Don't worry about it, sweetheart.
I'm just wondering how the hell you can see St. Charles Community College from Highway 70.
It's a sign that says St. Charles Community College.
Oh, okay. I see. But
Say what's up to Rick.
no one's going to understand that.
Wow.
Absolutely no one's going to understand that. The story of how Braden almost got sued.
Which didn't even actually happen because my mom made it up.
That was deception. We feel deceived.
Yes.
Fraudulent.
That's
Shannon's
a good word
fraud.
for it.
Much like Anthony Becht, head coach of the St. Louis Battlehawks.
Hey, I feel like we like all the shit about Anthony Becht is 100% deserved, but we also need to blame Bruce Gradkowski, the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, like I
feel
remember.
Like Gradkowski isn't as bad as Beck though, because you can see the offense starting to develop.
Yeah, like the run game has improved, and there was
the run game
and like
better every week.
Well, like I was listening to the broadcast, which you guys obviously can't because you were in the stadium, but there was a sequence in the fourth quarter where the Battlehawks ran 2 straight run plays with Brian Hill to the left. And they went for like 8, 9, 10 yards. And the broadcast was talking about how the offensive linemen literally went up to A.J. McCarron and the coach. And they're like, hey, let's run that play again. Like they were confident. They were feeling themselves because they're finally starting to get a feel in the run game and their run blocking. And they were just able to really push DC at the line of scrimmage and get some big runs.
Did you remember, like, I don't know how it looked on your TV, but like there was 2 like plays.
Actually, I watched the game on a projector, not a TV.
Shut the fuck up, Josh. But I remember there were 2 plays. They were close to each other, and they were like these weird like outside pitches.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Early in the game. I think it was the
Well,
play that we ran. It was an outside pitch.
See, I missed most of the first quarter because I was watching the Mizzou game, but I remember seeing a play later in the game where it was just like a very quick out to the tight end, Jake Sutherland, and it went absolutely nowhere. And I believe it was like when they were orchestrating their comeback. And it's like, how is that the play you draw up when you're trying to like score quickly and like get this comeback going? And it was just like the lamest play call ever, out to the flats to your tight end who is relatively slow, and Jake Sutherland. I don't know. There's a lot of slow developing plays. There's also a lot of, I mean, I'll give Bruce Gradkowski this. It is hard to run the offense that you're trying to run when your offensive line just cannot pass block whatsoever.
I mean, I feel like there's no urgency when it comes to this offense.
Oh yeah, no,
Because,
there's not.
Because like even on the 2-minute drill, like AJ tried to force it deep at one point, but like I don't even know if I necessarily blame him because like the other plays aren't going anywhere. And I don't know, it's just like I'm still not happy with Gradkowski's offense. Like, yeah, the running game is starting to come together, but there's no on switch. Like when we need to, it's like we need to score now, and it's like we're still running the same shitty offense.
Yeah, or like
that drive, the last drive of the game, it was going somewhere before McCarron underthrew that ball, and I couldn't really tell, but if he was under pressure or not. But he had, like, the deep ball was open. He just had to get it over the safety, and then he had a check down that could have easily gone for 10 to 15 yards as well. Like, there's no reason that play should not have worked.
Yeah, there's also a really frustrating sequence. There's also a really frustrating sequence in the first half when Darius Shepard had a big kick return, if I remember correctly, and the Battlehawks started on like the 20-yard line, and the drive ends up in a field.
Started a third.
Yeah, and the drive ended up in a field goal, and it's like you have to come away with a touchdown there. Like, how is your offense so inept that you start at the 20-yard line and have to settle for a field goal on the same drive?
Oh, I remember that shit. It's like, oh, we're going to settle for a Donnie Hagman field goal again, which, granted, he had, 2 kicks today, and he made both of them. So, good for him.
I mean, we haven't really had to talk about him at all the last couple weeks, so that's a positive. Yeah. Oh, man.
Also, something I forgot to mention earlier when we were talking about the defense. It's a recurring issue that we've talked about on here before, that they can't finish sacks. There were multiple times where it felt like the pocket was blown up and Te'amu was scrambling around, but they just couldn't bring him down. And that is so incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, because you need those sacks just for the loss of yards. And I remember, too, there was a blitz. I don't know if you guys were able to see this in the stadium. There was a blitz where the linebacker came up the middle, clear path to Te'amu, just falls down. Like, falls down when he would have had
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. He fell down, and he just kind of sat there. Then he, like, slowly got himself back up. And, like, even when he was on the ground, he could have just reached his arms out and grabbed Te'amu and would have been able to bring him down by the legs. But he just he just sat there. Then
and
he slowly got up.
And that goes into the not being able to finish sacks. Like, this linebacker had a straight line path to Te'amu, just falls down out of nowhere. The turf monster got him, and and then he was like out of the play after that because he couldn't get up fast enough.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, another thing. I don't know if we had this argument on call or on the show or wherever, but I remember you told me that selling the upper deck tickets weren't as simple as just opening them up. That is bullshit. We were sitting there in the lower deck, and, they had the one section of the upper deck that was open, but there were people just walking around the upper deck.
Yeah.
Like, they had free reign up there. There was nothing keeping them in that section. Like, there was this one big dude in, like, a white hoodie that sat in the upper deck by himself, like,
nobody around him.
Yeah, he was, like, in the end zone section in the upper deck across from us, because we were sitting in the end zone on the lower deck. And he was just, like, there. He had, like, a white hat and a big white hoodie and a towel that he was waving, trying to hype up the crowd, and everyone was getting excited for him. So if the Battlehawks really wanted to make the upper deck open, they wouldn't have to hire anybody, because there's nobody working there anyway, and people are sitting there anyway. Like, there was this homeless dude and his girlfriend who asked Braden if he had any food, and, like, the Battlehawks should have just given that guy a ticket. Fuck it. Like, you have open seats, like, let's fill it out.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. And
higher upper deck definitely spread out. Like, they weren't sitting where they were supposed to be sitting.
Yeah, you could tell that, like, in the tunnels, like, that went out to, like, the concourse and stuff, like, the lights were off, so obviously, like, there wasn't any concession or anything. But I don't see why you can't just have people sit up there, because, like, people were doing it anyway, so might as well just sell seats up there.
Yeah, I was also going to mention how the Battlehawks kind of, one thing that I think they need to do differently is I've noticed, like, no one really knew if they were still going to be selling tickets to the 300 and 400 levels for this next game, or like what sections would be open until like later in the week when the Battlehawks announced it. Okay, we're selling these tickets again, or we're selling more tickets. And it's like, it should just be known at this point that those sections should be for sale, or there should be tickets for purchase up there.
The section is going to be open all season, but the last two games they've opened up the 400 section like right before the game.
Just sell every seat for every game.
Yeah.
Like, what are you gonna have to hire more ushers that aren't there? Like, because who were the actual employees there? There were the XFL staff that was at the merch tent. There were people, like, with pop-up booths. Like, there was the Marines and Army and a couple other, like, sweepstakes and just things that you can sign up for. You know how those are at events. And then there were the concession workers working at the Greatest Show Grill. And that was about it. Like, I didn't see any security outside of ticket takers, which you don't have to add more of those if you have upper deck. They're just going to have to work longer. But I didn't see any, like, actual security or usher or anything that you actually would have to hire to open up the upper deck. Like, the only, like, more staff that you'd have to have would be concession workers. And I really don't think people would give a shit if there weren't any concessions up there. Like, maybe open one and close one of them downstairs. Like, they do that at the Royals all the time. They'll have, like, one open concession stand in the upper deck when there's nobody there. So, like, I don't see any reason why they're not doing that.
I just wish if they were going to open those seats that they would just decide at the beginning of the week so fans actually have the chance to buy them. Because, like, this might sound stupid, but I think it is the case for some people. If, you don't decide to announce until Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if you're going to sell those tickets up there, by then a lot of people have already decided what they're going to do during the weekend. And those are people that might have bought a Battlehawks ticket if
Like
they
how
knew.
me and Connor bought these tickets 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, for like $70.
Yeah, for $64. And if we waited, we could have gotten tickets up in the 400 section for 18.
Yeah, and also they should just be cheaper.
Yeah.
Like, you should be able to get upper deck tickets to Battlehawks games for like $1. Like, because the way I view tickets is kind of like if you're like at a grocery store and like food expires, like those, it's the same kind of thing. Like, once the event date comes and goes, you can't resell those seats. So even if you're like selling chairs for like 50 cents, do it. Like, that's revenue that you wouldn't have otherwise, and it looks better on TV.
And you're going to get way more money from concessions and just overall community from parking and everything.
Yeah, I mean, there's no downside. And again, like a lot of there might be people that would have went to the Battlehawks game if they would have known before Thursday that they could buy tickets in the upper deck for $18.
Yep.
And if you wait so late in the week to announce it, you're not really giving yourself a chance.
Yeah,
to sell those tickets.
There were people at the actual ticket booth buying tickets when we were there.
Yeah. And I believe this is the first week that they actually did that, is opening the ticket booth for purchases before the game. But
this is a good issue for the XFL to have, at least in St. Louis. Like, if you're having an issue, it's just like, we don't have enough tickets. Like, that's a good problem for them to have. But it's still one that is so, what seems like easily fixable.
It feels like, it kind of feels just like money being left on the table.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think that needs to be making money.
Like, and there's certainly a demand for it. Like, I feel like San Antonio and St. Louis are going to end up supplementing the league, which really fucking sucks that the Battlehawks and Brahmas are both terrible. But, like, the Battlehawks and Brahmas are going to need to support the rest of the league. That's just the reality of the situation. So, like, squeeze every penny out of those two cities.
And Braden just hit the rumble strip.
Fuck you. I was going under a smaller lane bridge, and there I was passing a car.
Anyway, what were you saying, Connor?
I was just talking about how the XFL really needs to squeeze every penny out of St. Louis that they can get. And St. Louis is willing to do it. Like we said, there are massive lines outside of the merch tents. Like, everyone wanted a piece of that.
And I bet that not everybody that was in Ballpark Village when we were there went to the game. And I'm pretty sure Ballpark Village was pretty packed.
Oh, yeah, there was not an open seat in Ballpark Village.
There was also an STL City SC game today.
Yeah.
And I feel like if not for that going on, the Battlehawks very well may have broken their attendance record that they set just last week.
I really hope they weren't dumbasses and they didn't schedule any Battlehawks games during a home Cardinals game.
Yeah, I need to check that still.
Like, that would be really stupid if they did that.
It would just be a fucking nightmare for parking and getting out of
Parking was horrible as it is. I can't imagine parking from a Battlehawks and Cardinals game at the same time. Like, people just wouldn't be able to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I got to ask, though, so, I mean, I know you kind of touched on it at the beginning, but how was, like, the dome? Like, did it, because, like, it's been so long since I've been in there. Like, have they done anything to it at all?
No.
Does it look like?
Outdated.
It feels like we're stuck in 2010. Like, there were things, like, I could, like, going into it, I kind of thought, like, it's a dome stadium. How can it possibly be outdated, you know? And then when I got there, it honestly smelled like our elementary school, for what that means. And there were just, like, aspects of it that were weird. Like, the section signs were still, like, blue and yellow for the Rams. And the only things that seemed updated were, like, the advertising had Battlehawks stuff on it. And the Josh, do you remember the Rams team store at all?
Very vaguely, but yeah.
Like, describe what you remember.
I mean, it's just, It was your typical like team store in any other stadium. But I was going to ask you if it looked like if it kind of reminded you of like the old, like it used to be a Rams team store, or if it looked like a Battlehawks pop-up shop, like
Well,
how.
that's the thing, because they had like their official team store, but it was like I was looking for a place. I was looking for the Rams team store basically, and there's like this one thing. It's like a big glass room. It's not like because my frame of reference is like the Giants and like Chiefs team store and stuff like that. It was nowhere near the size of that. Like, yeah, you just mentioned Indy. Indy was 2 floors. Yeah. This was just like a hallway, kind of like off to the side, like a big old glass room, and that was it. It was closer to like what we would see like a Mavericks game than a Battlehawks, Kansas City Mavericks, for those curious. But they did have like Battlehawks pop-up shops, like one of the places that, or one of the old guest services slot was a Battlehawks pop-up shop, and then they had like the little like booth pop-up shops. But I didn't see like an official like Rams team or like an official like team store looking area. But the quote unquote team store was this glass hallway thing. And admittedly, there was a massive line outside of that, but it wasn't like a full-on team store like I would think at like an NFL venue. So I don't know if that was the Rams team store and it was just small, or if like they got rid of the Rams team store, because I didn't see anything that I thought would have been the Rams team store.
See, granted, I know the dome is old. Like I can put that together, but like the reason I ask, if it looks like anything has changed, is because I know they always talked about renovating the dome at America Center, and I know St. Louis.
Really know what you can do to it.
Well, they did have plans to renovate it way back when, like in the in like the 2010s, before the Rams talks of them moving really started to heat up. They talked about renovating it, but like St. Louis just won that lawsuit like a year ago, or they settled that lawsuit with Stan Kroenke in the NFL, and they won like $800 million. And now one of the biggest complaints among St. Louisans was, we don't know what's going to happen with that money, and we want to know where the money's going to. And I feel like since you won that money in a lawsuit surrounding football, that you should be using that money to fix up the dome, because it's a place that, one, is still used for a lot of stuff, but two, it's old. Like just renovate it, because it is getting older, and you need to be able to make those improvements. And you need to make those improvements when the time comes. And if you do want to host something like WrestleMania, I mean, yeah, you already have the Enterprise Center, but like, it doesn't hurt to also have a really nice dome venue that you could use for concerts or monster trucks or anything, stuff like that. And it's like, I wonder what they're doing with the money that they won from that lawsuit, but it would be really cool if they could just fix up the dome and make it look more modern, maybe break open the roof and put like some windows up there, some like your more modern NFL stadiums to let some sunlight in. Go ahead.
Yeah, it needed some natural light for sure. But have you ever been to Kemper Arena? I kind of got Kemper Arena vibes from it. But one of the things that, honestly, I think it could benefit a lot from just a fresh coat of paint. Like, that would do a lot for it, because it's like you don't even have to like tear shit out or anything.
That, and like even I would say like maybe some new seats, like replacing the seats, and maybe I would say like go with like one solid color, make it black probably.
Why is it like, honestly, you should make it blue, because the Battlehawks are blue. And
I mean
the blue and like the Blues are there, and like the Rams were blue. Why are they burgundy? Like, I never understood that. Even like way back when watching Rams games, like, didn't they build the dome to attract the Rams from St. Louis originally? Like, why are the seats burgundy?
Yeah, I have no idea. I guess that was just the thing at the time for seats, and they didn't really consider the color. I don't know. But like I was thinking like black for neutral, or like blue you could do for the Battlehawks. And also when you talk about fixing up the dome and using some of that money they won in the lawsuit, if the XFL can become a sustainable entity, then you could really make this like a true home for the Battlehawks and put money into the stadium to make it, the Battle Dome. Like, make it that.
I will say, like, it doesn't even have to be the XFL because
and that's why I say like black seats even.
No. I'm just saying the entire football world has been put on notice for St. Louis's support through both iterations of the XFL at this point. So even if the XFL goes under, I could 100% see the USFL going to St. Louis, or I could 100% see because like I'm not really up to date with like the politics of the Canadian Football League right now, but I do know they're desperate right now, and they've gotten desperate in the past and added American teams in Baltimore and Memphis. So very absolute worst case scenario, I bet St. Louis could get a CFL team. So like there's probably going to be football in that dome just because like where there's a market, somebody's going to come and fill that need. Like it's simple economics. Like there's a very clear demand for football in St. Louis, and somebody is going to supply it, be that the XFL or whoever.
Yeah, and I also didn't even think to mention, but Mizzou is slated to play Memphis in the dome.
Yes. Yeah. I was going to point out.
Yeah, there's the booth.
Yeah, there was a booth that said like Zoo to the Lou that was selling tickets for that game.
Yeah, and so like the dome's being used for that too. Get some freaking money, fix up the dome, knock out the old roof, put in like a newer looking roof with some more natural light coming in. Maybe make the roof a little bit taller. Maybe add some new video boards, scoreboards, replace the seats, get some new turf. Just make it look nicer, or fresh coat of paint, like you said, around the stadium.
Where we were sitting, it was the smallest video board of all time because the big video board was right above us. But there was the smallest video board I think that I've ever seen on the other side of the stadium.
Can we get like a drop-down video board? Like, I'm sure there's some arena they collapsed somewhere that has like a simple little drop-down video board that they could just attach to the roof there. Because like, I always thought that was just standard when it came to domes, and it was weird when it didn't have that. So like, we had to look at this tiny-ass video board because we were under the main one, and that just seemed wrong to me. Like, there should be a drop-down video board that we can watch the game on. And at least like, because Josh, I posted a picture on Snapchat and Insta. I don't know if you saw it. That was from our seats. If you want to get a reference from where we were.
Yeah, I
remember.
Where
we were like, there was like a wall, like not far above our heads. And like, even if they just like slapped a couple of like monitors up there to like watch replays on, that would help out a lot. I know the Chiefs do that whenever you're in a seat where part of the view might be obstructed by the roof or something like that. There's always a TV up there so that you can see what's going on. That wasn't a thing here, and I found that kind of peculiar.
So I know when the Rams originally wanted to do a renovation with the Edward Jones Dome, and that kind of got shot down by Kroenke and company, they actually wanted to add a drop-down video board. It was going to be like a big one in the middle, and you could view it from all angles. And actually, I'll let you guys talk for a second. I'm actually going to pull up the video from the old article and the picture, and I'll put it on the screen so you guys can even see it, so like people can get an idea of like what we would want the dome to look like.
Yeah, another thing that I found kind of interesting, or that at least dated the stadium, was the staircases on the way out were just like white, and they were very cramped.
Oh, the ones that we went out on.
Yeah,
those were emergency exit staircases. I don't know why they opened them up, but those were just like extra staircases for people to get out. Like those weren't the actual staircases that you're supposed to be getting out of. So that's fine. But the staircase that we went up on, that's still not very friendly, I would say. And the escalators were pretty small as well.
Yeah, I remember like one escalator that everyone crowded around, and we're like, we'll just go up the stairs. Kind of the same at this kind of felt like a bigger version of the T-Mobile Center, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of the same issues.
Yeah, I'm just, not my blood's flowing about like renovations to the dome, but it does like frustrate me a little bit that there hasn't really been any talks or plans at all to fix up the dome, despite how much they use it and how much they talk about how they still use it.
Okay, hold up. I gotta ask, like, you talk about like, oh well, how much they still use it, how much they still use it. We saw the thing for the Mizzou Memphis game, obviously the Battlehawks. And we saw WrestleMania coming. What else do they use there? Because there's no regular tenant.
So they do a lot of conventions, and also they showed a time lapse. I forget where I saw it. It might have been like the STL Post Dispatch Instagram or something, but they did a time lapse of all the stuff that they had to do to get ready for the Battlehawks game. 2 days before the 2 days before the Battlehawks game, they had both a home improvement convention and they had a St. Louis volleyball tournament in the span of a few days leading up to the Battlehawks game. Yeah, they do a lot of stuff. They do a lot of stuff. And I know there was news of them wanting to renovate the America Center a few years ago. So it would just make sense to upgrade the dome. But I'm going to go ahead and put this overlay on the screen of a rendering that they had of what they wanted to do with the dome back when the Rams were still in it. And I'll put it up so you guys can see it.
Oh, that's nice. I love how it's Sam Bradford.
Yeah, that's what they wanted to do.
Okay.
And it just never happened.
Natural light, a drop-down video board. Dude, that would have helped a lot. Like, I don't even think you need to have that much natural light, but I was just thinking, like, I was just looking up, and you don't even have to put any holes in the ceiling, but just, like, where the ceiling meets the wall, just, like, some windows there would be nice, just to let a little bit of sunlight in. You don't even need that much, but just a little bit.
It would also look better on TV.
Yeah. The dome looks horrific on TV. For as much as I love the fact that the Battlehawks are there,
does.
The field is disgusting. The field looks the same as it did when the Rams were there.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That I also mentioned like new turf too, because it looks like the same turf the Greatest Show on Turf played on.
Yeah. Oh, Emos. Is Emos open?
Yeah.
Are they good?
No. Emos is terrible.
Do you have an opinion on that, Josh?
I'll be honest with you, I've never had it.
How have you never had emos yet you lived in St. Louis? That's
I just never went there, and I was also never a fan of thin crust pizza.
Fair enough. Their toasted ravioli is good though.
Yeah, for sure.
That is one food thing that St. Louis does well.
What an oddly specific food choice. But yeah, I feel like the dome is probably going to be renovated if the XFL is a sustainable product. Just because, there were 35,000 people here. So if you have, also the XFL might need to extend its season to justify that because the Battlehawks only provide, 5 to 6 events there. But they did have a booth set up that was for, I should have entered it because it was a contest to get 4 tickets to go to the championship game in San Antonio, and they would pay for your overnight and everything to go to the Alamo Dome and see the championship, right? And I feel like next year, assuming the XFL survives, St. Louis, I don't know who decides that or who would have to lobby for that, but St. Louis should definitely try and get the XFL championship next year because that would also help justify any potential renovations because that's just another quote-unquote big event depending on what you consider it.
Yeah, I would just really love to see the dome get a little bit of a facelift. It doesn't have to be anything major,
especially when Busch Stadium and Enterprise are so up to date.
Yeah. We just walked past Busch, and Busch looked so nice.
I understand the Rams moved, and they just have accepted the fact that it's older, and it's good enough for the stuff that they have there. But, I mean, if the Enterprise Center is booked for something, and, someone else wants to come to town, or, a celebrity for a concert or something like that, you'd be like, oh, well, we also have the Dome. No scheduling conflicts, because we can just put you in the Dome. And you don't have to go in Enterprise Center. Yeah, it's bigger capacity. I don't know. I love the Dome, and I have I'm nostalgic for the Dome, man, and I would love to see it get the love that it deserves and get a makeover and see it get some more use. I already know it gets used for stuff, but the stuff that it gets used for, it's not stuff that gets national attention or anything. And I know the Battlehawks are a very minuscule reason to renovate the dome, but I would just like to see it.
Yeah, just paint it like Battlehawks colors, and honestly, just a fresh coat of paint would go so far. Also, they had a band. Have you heard anything about this, Josh?
What band?
There was a band in the stadium.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was like I think it was an all brass band or something. They were playing the Tomahawk Chop when we first walked in, which I'm sure there were some mixed feelings about that in the stadium.
Screw it. It's cool though that the Battlehawks have picked up the chop though.
I'll get something when you stop to get gas. But yeah, nobody was doing it, but nobody was sitting there like doing the chop, but it was very clear that's what the song they were playing was. Because like they were playing their usual song, but you could still hear the bum 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 like as an undertone with it, and it was just weird. I will say though, like there was a kid and his mom sitting in front of us, and there was a guy in a Chiefs jacket that sat in front of them, and like they both kind of seemed grossed out at the side of a Chiefs jacket. So
I was going to say real quick that I feel like part of the reason that the chop might not have been very well received is because that there's like this odd rivalry between. Well, I mean, I guess it's not so much odd. I don't know. I feel like it is now because there isn't really a reason for it besides like the Royals and the Cardinals maybe, but there's this odd Kansas City versus St. Louis rivalry, and St. Louis fans, because of what the NFL did to them, just kind of like, I'll screw the Chiefs. And it's more so a jealousy that Kansas City still has their NFL team and St. Louis doesn't.
I remember back when there was a trophy that used to go between the teams called the Governor's Cup. And I remember as a kid, like we used to say the only preseason game that mattered was the one against the Rams because there was actually a trophy for it. And I can remember there being like a level of rivalry between the Chiefs and the Rams whenever we would play them.
And see, that's the only reason that I do find it weird that maybe I shouldn't find it weird, but I know Clark Hunt voted in favor of the Rams moving to LA back when they held the vote. And I know it ultimately made the NFL owners more money, which is a big part of the reason that he said yes to that. But if I'm Clark Hunt, I'm voting to keep the Rams and Chiefs rivalry in Missouri.
I mean, the Cardinals-Royals rivalry is definitely big. Because like I've gone to several Cardinals-Royals games, but it's all sold out as Cardinals fans. But I feel like that is kind of the inverse because obviously St. Louis is a baseball town, and Cardinals fans just completely take over Kauffman every time they come here. And I feel
especially by Nerdy Geek Jr.
And I feel like if like there never really was a real Chiefs Rams rivalry. Like I feel like Clark might have felt differently if it was like the Chargers in St. Louis and like it was a twice a year thing between the two. But like with the Chiefs and Rams, it was usually just a preseason game. But I have memory of the Rams coming to Arrowhead. I really don't have any memory of the Chiefs going to the Dome. But I feel like the Chiefs going to the Dome, Chiefs fans would probably take that over.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
And it's kind of a shame that the only real rivalry remaining between Kansas City and St. Louis because we have a football team and no hockey team, and they have a hockey team and no football team.
Screw it. Forget the Dome even. St. Louis should build that stadium that they proposed to the Rams to try and get them to stay that was going to be by the river. They should just build that one now. Like, I know they don't have an NFL team. I don't know. I just want to see it, man. Like, the stadium was going to be so cool.
The new soccer stadium?
Yeah, they did. Which, by the way, we can talk. Well, we have talked about it a little bit, but it'd be cool to see the Battlehawks play a game outdoors in that new soccer stadium.
You'd have to do it later in the season because it was cold as hell today.
Well, that, and also, like, at this point, Battlehawks attendance is so good that you would actually be downsizing to a point where you're affecting attendance because of how many fans you're getting at Battlehawks games? Because that soccer stadium only holds like 20-something thousand, doesn't it?
I couldn't tell you. I don't follow soccer, but I'm going to take your word for it. But yeah, I think also I feel like a lot of I don't think that's a good idea at all because I feel like a lot of people from St. Louis are in the same boat as you with the whole nostalgia for the dome because like I said, there are people around just like reminiscing over the last time that they went to the dome. So I think
Yeah.
a lot of the people
And it's
coming
already
out,
there.
yeah, and I think a lot of the people coming out here also like I'm a big believer of like every venue should have like a permanent tenant and like to justify its existence because like these things are so big and expensive and hard to maintain and all that, which is like why it was nice that the XFL provided teams to three abandoned stadiums in Globe Life Park, I think it is, the dome, the Edward Jones Dome. I know it's not the Edward Jones Dome anymore, but it's forever going to be that to me. And Camping World Stadium in Orlando, like none of those had tenants, and the XFL provided tenants for all three. So, and I think that's also a good way to like grow these leagues because I talk about the Omaha Nighthawks a lot of the time when I talk about alternative football leagues, but I think they're a good example. And part of the like they had like 20,000 people per game, and that's pretty good for Omaha during football season. And part of the reason they had that was because the stadium was an old baseball stadium that like whatever team was in it left, and there was really no justification for keeping it around, but the residents were nostalgic to it. And so part of the reason they showed up to Nighthawks games was just to justify not tearing it down. And like obviously the UFL folded and they ended up tearing that stadium down. But still, the same logic can be applied here in St. Louis, where the Battlehawks are, in a lot of ways, you could look at the Battlehawks as saving the dome.
Yeah. They're the team to bring it back, or the entity to bring it back.
And I think it would like not that the XFL needs more goodwill with the city of St. Louis, but I think it would do a lot if like ideally in a perfect world, which you know it's not, but in a perfect world, if you walked into the dome for like home improvement convention or whatever the hell you were talking about, if you walk into the dome for
Yeah.
like a volleyball tournament, you could tell that was the Battlehawks Stadium. That's
Yeah.
like
Well, yeah, because that's one of the big things they still use the dome for is like home improvement stuff, or like they'll do like boat shows or car shows, and they'll just bring a bunch of like boats or cars into the dome, and they'll like show them off to people and stuff like that.
I can't even like picture that because when I think of boat and car shows that I've been to, they were in like convention centers. Like putting one of those in a football stadium is just bizarre to me. Like football stadiums should be used for football. And I love the fact that Mizzou is playing Memphis there, and I feel like Mizzou should make that an annual thing. Like just one of their home games a year, play it at the Dome, and it
Yeah.
just makes too much sense. And like it's a perfectly fine football venue. Like yeah, we talked about all the issues it has, but like it gets the job done. And there's so few football like venues out there in the grand scheme of things that like it's a shame that there's not like a permanent tenant, and that's what the Battlehawks provide.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that's a good note to end off on, though.
Yeah, I'm sitting in Braden's car in his grandparents' driveway. He's nowhere to be found. Um, I'm
Yeah,
tired.
this podcast definitely turned into us talking about our dreams for the dome,
That's
but
what they all turn into. They all turn into less about the XFL and more about the city of St. Louis.
well, better that than talking about Anthony Becht coach football.
Well, I've said it a million times. Like that's what this league is about. The league is about giving meaningful moments to the people of St. Louis and other cities that wouldn't otherwise have it.
Yeah, but we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Sorry that it was such a terrible game today, but hopefully it was fun at least. But
Yeah,
with all that,
there were super fans. I forgot to mention that. There was like a guy wearing antlers who came onto the field and hyped up the team. Like I think his name was Kevin Atkins, a defensive tackle, took the mic and started to chant. Like, it was a great environment.
Well, that's good. But yeah, no, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. We'll be back next week to talk about, I don't even know who the Battlehawks play next week, to be honest. But
Vipers.
That has to be an automatic win.
Oh, 100%.
The Vipers are not good. But yeah, no, we'll go over that when that happens. But with all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Battlehawks fans can find this. And we'll see you all in the next one.
We're the number one Battlehawks podcast, aren't we?
There's a good chance, but I mean, you have to consider how many Battlehawks podcasts there are. But yeah,
I don't think there are.
We're the voices of the Battlehawks. So thanks for tuning in. Go Battlehawks.
Fire back.